Oh, hi. How the frick are you doing? Because I'm just doing dandy. Hey, here's a nutty thing. Did any of you think it possibly necessary to inform me that it was Mermaid? No? Huh? Well, funny you should avoid mentioning that because I found out about 5 days ago when I got home and found out that it was the 5th of May, and that Mermaid was a real thing, and I was misrepresenting the aquatic life of the planet Earth. Yeah, yeah. So you know what happened? I go to lay down in my bed. Next thing I know, I feel a dragging feeling. I wake up a little bit groggy, and I witness as my beta fish is dragging my ass into the ocean. Yeah, so I've been held hostage down here for 5 days. You know, just just being told that if I didn't do a review of their favorite movies and clear up some things for them, then I wasn't going to be able to get out of here. All right, so here goes. I gotta say, their version of coffee is pretty all right. Sure, it's mostly seaweed, but what can you do? Hey, everybody, it's your Uncle Nicky, and here we are with Who the Fish is that guy? Are we sure we're going with that? I mean, I don't want to. Okay, man. Okay, listen, I'll do whatever. No, I don't want to. No, I don't want to experience it again. It's all right. It's fine. I promise. Okay? All right. I can do it. Who the Fish CAst Dat Guy? With me, Uncle Nicky. Hey, how's it going? So, today we're going to be talking about a myriad of movies because, oddly enough, they're all connected and you never frickin' knew it, all right? So here it goes. Yes, I understand the assignment, okay? Listen, all right? I have spent years feeding you and changing your bowl water. I gave you that castle and it. Okay. Don't glub at me so angrily. I got this, okay? I got it. The story starts once upon a time when this king of the underwater with a massive set of pecs and very, very attractive becoming nipples decided that he was going to have kids with every single princess from the 7 seas. Okay, and those princesses gave him daughters. Very cool. And those daughters he raised as his own. A daughter for every one of the seas, thus making him king of all 7 seas, except for the Dead Sea, but that is what that is. Moving on. So, one of his daughters, she was the youngest, all right, so of course, giving him the most shit, very obviously. And while he was magical and had a magical trident in order to get shit done, there was not exactly a situation that was becoming, nor were there any, opportunities for this one young child to do exactly what she wanted to do. Not that she should get away with murder, but here's the frickin' deal. When it comes to the youngest, you're kind of at that point running on autopilot, and the kid basically tries to pull off any kind of crap that they possibly can, and you're just like, you know what? So long as you're not in jail and you're not dead, you do what you need to do. So she had a run of the mill, right? I forgot the kid's name. Just like voluminous red frickin' hair, right? Okay. And this happened a long while ago. This is a historical document, all right? So, she had 2 best friends. One of them was the special at Red Lobster. May it rest in garlic butter knots. And the other was a seagull. Oh, wait. No, she had 3 friends. And then she had the fish. The fish who was like, you're sitting there looking at this fish going, this fish has never saw another fish naked. I'm just saying, it's too squeaky. But anyhow, so you got the kid, and she's exploring the world as it is, right? And she's like, oh, this is freaking great. I'm going to go about my business, and I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I'm going to live my life the best that I can. And my father's going to get mad at me, but you know what? Whatever. And so she one day goes up to the surface because she gets really interested in the surface world and everything that's going on up there. I mean, sure, it may be a patriarchal society that just depends on making sure that you continue the bloodlines, keeping power amongst the rich and wealthy so that everyone else is forced to scrounge for scraps. But there's musical numbers, so it does what it does. Anyway, so she comes up to the water, well, she's living in the water. She can't really come up to the water. She comes up to the surface of the water. She breaks that surface tension. She pops out. And look, there's fireworks. Oh, explosions. That's kind of cool. But then, oh my God, look at that hunky number. He's kind of tasty. I want to make me a fish stick out of that one. Maybe she wants the fish fingers. Who's to say? So she's like, I'm obsessed. Well, so she starts doing what any kid would do in this instance and starts stalking him, which is a little bit easy when he's on a boat and that boat is moving through the water and she basically can go anywhere the water is. Easy peasy. So she starts following the boat and the boat gets into a storm, like a wicked bad storm, right? And so he gets tossed, pretty boy gets tossed overboard. All right, this is awful. What's going to happen? Maybe the kid's going to drown. No. Red's going to save him. Okay, so she does. And she brings him to the shore and she plops him right down there. And it's like, he's safe, he's cute, he's very handsome. I didn't do anything untoward to him while he was unconscious. I just put him where he belongs and went back to longing for him from afar. And so it's like, okay, you know what? You got a crush. I understand, and it's a two sides of the tracks kind of situation, tale as old as time. Sorry, that number's from another movie. Anyway, so she's all hot to trot for this kid, right? And they end up being like, oh, I remember this boy that I saved. And he's like, I remember this girl who saved me. And like, they're both longing for each other. And then in the midst of longing for each other, she's got this really big collection because she's a little bit of a hoarder. All right, she's a little bit of a hoarder. She's got her own personal palace space because of course she does. She's daddy's girl, so she's got a giant space that could possibly, provide living accommodations for at least 15 to 20 mer people. But you know what? It's all hers. She collects tchotch. She puts it up on the shelves. She's got a collection of everything that's going on. She likes to show it off to her close friends, and that's it. Basically, she's a collector. Would it be creepy and not get her dates if they were action figures and she were male? Sure. But because she's the youngest, it's fine. It's fine. She's adorable when she does it. All right. So she's getting this collection together. And the jewel of her collection becomes this statue of her boyfriend, or at least the boy she perceives as her boyfriend. It's a little creepy, but we'll get into that later. Put a pin in it. So she's like, okay, I've got this statue, and I put the statue in the middle of my collection, and I can fawn over him, and I'm going to sing songs to him, and I'm going to practice kissing. Maybe. We don't see that, but you know what? Director's cuts are for a reason. So, at some point, right? At some point, she gets found out by a dad. Dad finds out what she's doing in that giant cavern that he gave her. Oh my God, it's a collection. You got a stash of human crap. I mean, what are you doing? You're longing over those two-legged dinguses up there who just wander around and desperately try to make sure that nobody tries to overthrow their palaces. Okay. Including, he uses the trident he's got, and he zaps the statue, and the statue falls apart. And she's like, I'm wicked fucking sad over this, Dad. I can't believe you did this. You're dead to me. I hate you. And Dad's just like, listen, you were my seventh daughter. At this point, I have done this so many frickin' times that's exactly why. This beard is white, and this hair, even though it is magnificent, it also is white. So, her collection is ruined. She misses the boy. And what would have happened but? All of a sudden, this slinky number rolls up and says, hey, listen, your auntie would like a word with you. Like, come out with it. Just come on. We got an offer you can't refuse. And so she's like, Sure, why not? I'm rebelling, I am angry, and since I know everything I want to do is justified and right, I'm totally going to do whatever you're expecting me to do. So she follows out these Ely type guys out into the deep, dark waters, and who does she come across? You know? Who does she come across? Auntie, right? Auntie's out there. Auntie's doing the makeup. Auntie's living her best life. Auntie's just watching reality television and being very judgy, but that's okay. She's got nothing better to do, and that's perfectly fine. You can't go wrong. If you live in your best life, you live in your best life. But I digress. So Auntie says, listen, sweetheart, I realize that you want this boy, all right? So I'm going to give you, herein lies the devil's bargain, all right? I'm going to give you the opportunity to go up there and give it a go, You got 3 days. Go up there and try to hit on him. See whether or not you can make that real connection, And then if it works, it works. Congratulations, you're together. If it doesn't work, I get your powers and I turn you into an anemone, And it's fun. She's like, you know what? Since I, being I think she was friggin' 15 at the time, am I right? 15. What the frick are you guys doing? You got Namor over there. Yeah, no, in Wakanda Forever. You got Namor. He's like a couple 100 years old. You got this kid's 15. She's making decisions. He's playing it chill. Like, really? Anyway, okay. You know what? You're right. I'll get back to it. Anyway. So here's the deal. So she's like, yes, you know what? I'm justified in my actions. I'm going to go. I'm going to do the thing. Let's do the thing. So she does, right? She takes the bargain. She has to give up her voice, gives it to Auntie. Auntie's like, oh, I'll just put it in a shell. We'll call it collateral. It'll be fine. You return the legs. I return the voice. It'll be good. All right, cool. So little girl floats up to the surface, gets out there on the water, buck-ass nude, right? Starts wandering around without being able to say anything. Is a little bit of bind, a little bit of trouble. You're having a little bit of an issue, and that's perfectly all right, because that's the way that it is. That's the way that it is, all right? You're doing the very best that you can. I understand it. You understand it. Let's go forth. So here goes. So she finds a way to the castle, Make sure to cover up before getting there, obviously, because, that's what friends are for, and there's no way her seagull friend and her red lobster friend are going to let her, wander around with her bits out. I mean, that would be problematic. Not that the rest of this isn't problematic. Don't give me that frickin' look. Anyway, so she's doing what she needs to do, and she finally finds the boy, right? And she gets invited into the castle because, I don't know, like pretty or something. Like you would just take some random commoner off the street, but whatever. And they start hanging out, the boy and girl, who can't actually tell him what's going on because she doesn't have a voice no more. All right, fine. Fine. You know what? It's good. We'll deal with it what we can. Cool. So, she and he are starting to get closer. But like the crab buddy, little red lobster there, which I realize, okay, I get that he's a crustacean. Stop blah-blah-blah-being at me, all right? I understand that Sebastian is a crab, but I make jokes that my audience are going to be able to relate to, and none of your people are going to be able to watch this, because how are you going to watch the internet when you guys don't have screens down here? That's right. I'm supposed to be talking to the land people right now, not the sea people. Okay. So here goes. So she's like, I got 3 days. And little Sebastian there is like, you know what? We're going to set you up. We're going to set the mood. There's going to be a romantic boat trip and all that stuff. And it's like, great. Works wonders. Okay. So 2 preteen idiots. No, they are technically teens by that point. 2 teenage idiots are like, we're in love and it's going to be forever and it's going to be great. Because that never went wrong. So, they're getting together. And Auntie sees that it's happening. And Auntie's like, oh, no. This is my big in. This is my way of finally sticking it to that old white-haired Santa-looking motherfucker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up and I'm going to pretend to be, oh, look at me, taking on a body shape that isn't mine, because this young man is only looking for somebody with an hourglass figure and a wonderful voice. Because you know what? He's fucking shallow. But we'll get back to that. Okay. So here goes. Whoo! So, he ends up, by he, I mean the 15-year-old, the idiot who made out with the redhead, right? Red's over the moon. Oh, I'm in love. He kissed me. It's perfect. Meanwhile, freaking 15-year-old Princey Prince over there ends up getting seduced by Auntie, who looks all of a sudden like a Victoria's Secret model. Because, again, body type is the only thing that matters, and you've known me for exactly a day, and you've been hypnotized by my looks and my voice, and sure, maybe a little bit of magic, but you, young man, have given in to the stereotype, which makes you a shallow freaking loser. So, it's just like, okay, he's now gonna date Auntie, who's magically inclined to look this way. But, little Red Lobster over there sees in a mirror that, it's really Auntie. So he's going to go tell her, right? But then he gets in this whole mix-up in the kitchen, nearly gets killed and served for dinner, It's not great, guys. It's not great. And you're like, oh no, this is all tragic. And it's like the 3 days run out. And Red's like, I'm being dragged back to the water. What am I going to do? And like, does it just in a way so that, Auntie now reveals that it's been her all along, right? She had the voice in like a locket, and this is a whole mess, and she's now going to turn Red into an anemone. And the king's like, oh, no, you can't do that. I'll give up my power. You can have my power. Just let my daughter be, right? Let my youngest go, right? She didn't mean anything by it. She wasn't trying to cause trouble. She's just the youngest. It's just what they do. Yeah, okay. As the oldest, let me tell you something. The other 6 sisters were sitting there this entire frickin' time going, you wouldn't have let us get away with that crap for 5 minutes, let alone give up your trident and be turned into an anemone so that Auntie is now the queen of the seas? What are you trying to pull, old man? You wouldn't be turned into an anemone for any of us. But, I understand where that's coming from. So, Eric, the kid, right? Mr. Princey Prince up there, he's like, I'm going to sail to the middle of the ocean because that'll help. And then Auntie becomes a giant kaiju and just like, I rule all the seas. And it's like, okay, so like, you got Red there. And she's swimming like a bastard. And she's just like, you know what? I'm going to try to stop this situation or salvage it. And you got Princey Boy up there, and he's like, I'm in the middle of a giant storm. Oh, wait a second. The last time I was in a giant storm, I met a red-headed mermaid. And it all clicks for him, right? Because he's a friggin' idiot, right? But, what do you expect, given the fact that his parents were probably like cousins and some shit, whose parents were cousins and some shit? Because, as I said, European royalty, am I right? Anyway. So, the prince there, he's on a boat, right? And Red, she's down there in the water, and Auntie starts throwing this giant cyclone thing into the water, like a whirlpool. That's what it's called, not Maytag. And so you're like, oh my God, she's gonna take over all the seas. And like Eric, like Princey Boy, he turns the boat, right? And he runs the mast, the front, straight into Auntie, skewers her, and it's like, she's dead. Trident's free. Everything's great. Now, I know what you're thinking to yourself. You're thinking to yourself, oh, Nick, that was only 19 minutes. That's not a lot of a movie. No, because you know what? That's not where the story ends. Because, yes, there are sequels that were released, and I didn't give a friggin' care about them. But as I have been informed, that's not the important part, because what you don't understand is this, is that Eric, right? Eric Princey Prince there, and Red, Ariel, they had a kid, okay? And that kid was a little bit of a troublemaker. But eventually, because the both of them were 15 when they got married, the two of them broke it off. Why? Because we were 15 when we made a decision, and nobody's smart when they're 15. So Ariel went one way, Princey Prince went to be a king of a surface world. Okay, this'll come back. Just wait. It's gonna get complicated. All right. So Triton's still down there, right? Kingy Boy is down there, big beard and giant hair and his trident, right? Okay, cool. And like everything's freaking normal, right? There's a trident, there's a king, he's a mermaid, cool beans. His daughter is now single, right? Oh, you know what he's gonna do? Same thing they do on the surface world. Triton's like, I'm gonna marry my daughters off to the kings in order to make them queens, in order to continue the bloodlines. Because guess what? That's right, monarchy and patriarchy rule down here too. Yeah, it ain't fucking better down where it's wetter. Unless it's, Saturday night, you know what. Anyway, yes, I know, we're not talking about it. It's supposed to be PG-13-ish. Yeah. So here's where it gets complicated. Now, Ariel, right, married off to this Dolph Lundgren looking guy, right? And they ended up having a kid, right? And that kid's name is Mira. Put a pin in it. That's right, because here we go, because we're about to get the rest of it in. And one of the other daughters, right, got married off to somebody else, but they were like, you know what, this ain't working for me. This ain't working for me, so I'm going to go and be my own independent self. One of the older daughters was like, you know what? One of the older daughters of Triton's like, I'm going to go off, I'm going to be free spirit. My father married me off to some jackass, some sea urchin of a looking motherfucker. So I'm going to go be my own woman. An independent sister, I believe in it. So in the midst of her storming off before they had to consummate the marriage, right? She ends up washed up on the shore of an island and meets a very charming fisherman, right? Boba Fett. And you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, you guys are cute together. Like, you really got it going on. Like, look at you two. And the two of them, they fall head over heels in love. And they end up having a kid, right? They have a little baby boy. Oh, so precious. Oh, so delightful. Problem being is that, well, the sea urchin of a loser that older daughter was supposed to be married to sent some gods to find her, right? And so they end up going and they find her and they wrestle her back into the water. They're like, no, you're coming back. You're going to do your friggin' due diligence. And she's like, all right, I'll go back. And the sea urchin of a king goes, you know what? You're going to stay with me and we're going to have a kid. Or I'm going to send my troops up there and they're going to kill your other kid and the guy you had that kid with. And she's like, oh, you might try, but he's Boba Fett. And he's like, I don't know who the frick that is, and I don't care. I have merperson technology. What are you going to do about it? All right. So fast forward. I think you see where this is going. I think you do. So here goes. Right? So you end up getting years on. And that little baby, right? That little baby that our aquatic princess, now queen, had with Boba Fett is friggin' Jason Momoa. I know. I was as shocked because listen, you're gonna be hard pressed. You're gonna be hard pressed not to take, Ariel's blonde sister, combine it with Boba Fett, and not turn out such a chiseled piece of cheesecake of a man as Jason Momoa. But I digress. So you got Jason Momoa, and he's like, you know what? I'm a cool kid. I'm doing what I'm doing. Oh, up until his uncle rolls up, right? And he says, listen, on the low, okay? I'm going to teach you how to be a merperson because your mom is the queen, right, of the underwater realms, right? And yes, you don't get to see her much, but she has been threatened that if she comes to find you, she's going to kill you and your father, even though your father has Mandalorian armor. Okay, cool. You know what? Fine, fine, fine. So there's a training montage. Oh, it's a sick training montage. And eventually he becomes the big, burly, bearded man that he is, right? And he knows that he's a mer person, right? He also knows he's the son of Boba Fett. But eventually shit goes down because Ariel's daughter with the other king, Mira, ends up coming to find Jason Momoa. Uh-huh. And they're like, listen, all of Atlantis, all of the other realms under the water, they're in danger. I need you to go find my grandfather's trident and rule the oceans. And Jason Momoa was like, yeah, I mean, I'm not doing anything this week. And very obviously, the Justice League doesn't need me when they're doing all their action in slow-mo for 4.5 hours in black and white. So let's go have a little bit of an adventure. And he does, and they get closer. I mean, it's a little bit weird, given the fact that they're cousins. But, you do what you do. And so it's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to go. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to do what I am capable of doing. And eventually, Jason Momoa gets to meet his mother, who he's like, weren't you in some AMC ads? I feel like I've seen you before. And she's like, no, I've just always been a mer person. It's like, so do me a favor. Like, how is it that you've maintained so well, and yet Mira's mother, Ariel, is dead? And she's just like, well, I don't know what to tell you. Ariel used to make some really, really interesting choices, right? Especially given the fact that her lineage still lives up on the planet Earth. But we'll get there, put a pin in it. So you got Jason Momoa, right? And you've got his mother, right? And you've got Mira, his cousin, yeesh. And you're just like, okay, they're gonna go. They're gonna find King Triton's trident. He's gonna use it. He's gonna rule over the ocean. But before he does that, he has to go, and he needs to beat the crap out of his half brother. That's right, his half brother, right? Yeah, it's his half brother. Man, this is freaking PG Game of Thrones underwater, isn't it? Yeah. Let me ask you a question, though. Like, in the second Jason Momoa Underwater King movie, right? The first movie, there's those trench monsters. And the second movie, none of that shit. Okay, I'll leave it alone. Budgetary issues. Yeah, I understand. Okay. That makes sense. Anyway, so Jason Momoa, he gets King Triton's trident, right? And he's like, look, I got the trident, which means I rule all the seas. And his half-brother's like, no, trial by combat. And he's like, listen, I am Jason Momoa, and you were the night owl in Watchmen. And I already know that you're going to try to fight me in slow motion because, as we have proven every single time we are in one of the movies made by Zack Snyder, we have to fight in slow motion. But I can move at full speed because we were above water. And his brother's like, aha, you have beaten me with your full speed, whereas I have been trying to fight you slow motion. Anyways, so Jason Momoa defeats his half-brother and goes, listen, if this were Game of Thrones, I'd totally make out with you. But since it's not, and since this is a PG movie, I will simply send you to prison. Because you know what? Maybe you'll learn your lesson. I don't freaking know. And he's like, I'm king of the ocean, and I'm going to take my half-cousin as my wife. Yikes. So, a couple years pass by. Guess what? Momoa and Ariel's daughter, they have a kid. Yeesh. But we'll get there. And Boba Fett's perfectly fine. And every so often his mom comes up and visits, when she's doing promotions for AMC. And that's perfectly fine. He does stuff having to do with the water. All right? Every so often he fights people. Unbeknownst to him, his Eric's family is still thriving on Earth, right? Princey Boy, who married Ariel and then they got divorced, he's still up there on Earth living his best life, or his ancestors are living. Oh, don't worry, we'll get there. And so he's like, okay, cool, right? We're gonna try to make the oceans thrive because you know what? Humanity is threatening the oceans. So Jason Momoa is like, we gotta preserve the oceans, guys. We're gonna make this a little bit of an environmental tale, but at the same time, we're gonna have action. So it was great, all right? And then you find out that there's some kind of like necrotic polka. We're not going to call it a necrophallus, but it could be, all right? You got a necropoca under the water, which controls minds and brings back the dead from under the water. And you're kind of like, okay, cool. I understand that. There's a lot of dead things at the bottom of the ocean, so why not bring them back? And so, what of the rivals, right? One of Jason Momoa's rivals, who just happens to be Dr. Manhattan from the Watchmen show. What? Watchmen again? That's right. He beat the crap out of Night Owl in the first movie, so now he's fighting Dr. Manhattan from the Watchmen show. It's crazy. It is nuts. And you're sitting there going, oh my God, this is all going. And I loved you in the Watchmen show, and I'm so conflicted because are you telling me that you left Regina King and then next thing you knew, you decided to become an evil villain who is constantly fighting with friggin' Jason Momoa? Do you know who his parents are? One of them is sitting up on fat stacks of AMC money, and the other one's the Mandalorian. Or at least a Mandalorian. Actually, he's not a Mandalorian. He's just Boba Fett because technically he was a Mandalorian. But I digress. So there goes. So Jason Momoa is like, yes, I will save the oceans. And so he goes and he fights Dr. Manhattan and he wins. And then he announces to the UN that he is king of the oceans and that you better treat the oceans better. Else I'm going to come back and I'm going to teach you guys a lesson. And he goes, woohoo! And he jumps into the water. Okay. Now, things that you don't know after this is very important. Are you ready? Okay, here goes. So, everybody's like, oh, wait, but now, Nick, you're telling all these stories. You're talking about the underwater movies. How do they all... You're stringing them all together, but you left out Finding Nemo and Finding Dory. How does that work? What can Jason Momoa do in those movies? What? Oh, that's right. He can talk to fish. And he can understand fish. Do you know what Finding Nemo and Finding Dory is? Those are the stories that he told his baby when putting his baby to bed. You know, the baby he had with his cousin, half-cousin, still ooh. Yeah, that's right. Oh, but it gets freaking weird, all right? So, Eric's family is living up on the shore, and they're still fat on the land because they were royalty to begin with, and they knew how to squirrel away the money when the patriarchy no longer became fashionable. So they started investing in companies, in development, in land development, in oil, in space travel. That one's important. In artificial intelligence. Scroll ahead a couple thousand years. Becoming 10,000 years. That's right. Eric's family has become rich and not only a seafaring, but a starfaring people who love the water because of their grandparents. And they have finally taken their own planet. That's right. They have Kaladin, which means that Eric's last name was Atreides. And in order to make sure that they had the best protector they could, they resurrected Jason Momoa because he was the strongest to become the defender of the family, and they just kept cloning him with every generation and gave him different names like Duncan Idaho. Oh, but wait, it gets worse. Because Eric, being pissed off at Ariel's father, thinking Ariel's father was the reason why they eventually got divorced, collected Triton's genetic material, and in order to punish him, genetically cloned him and put him on Arrakis, also known as Dune. Yeah. Oh, wait. Your minds can be blown. Now I know what you're thinking to yourself. You're thinking to yourself, Nick, you did a whole lot of work there, and there was a lot of great connections. But you went from Disney to DC, and you left you know you left Wakanda forever. Guess what? That's because I'm trapped here. They're very nice people. They feed me well, but they wanted to make sure that everybody understood exactly what the situation was. And now I think I've done. Have I done what needed to be done? No, you keeping me? What do I need to? I need to say the tagline. Write this. So, recycle your bottles and cans. Respect the oceans. All right. It is better down where it's wetter. Take it from me. Yeah, I said. See. And this has been Uncle Nicky for Who the Fish Cast That Guy. Help. No, listen, I understand, all right? I know it's tough because, people up on the surface world, they're so obsessed with being themselves and understanding, exactly what's going on in the world. And it gets complicated, but I want to thank you, all right? This was a learning experience, all right? It was just 5 days. Also, I didn't know you guys had charges. What are you doing with all this Apple? Oh, they do. You have Apple down here. If you guys heard of? No, you don't have Windows. Okay, I mean something about that seems no. Hey, is the date different down here? No, I'm asking because now that my watch is charged, it says it's the 29th. You had me down here for 24 days?